Santorum enjoying his moment in the sun last night. So let's try to work out what on earth it all means for this roller coaster ride of a Republican race for the presidential nomination. With us today to discuss all of this in the studio with me, Bob Rice, managing partner at Tangent Capital, www.3movesAhead.com, and at Bob Rice 3, I think.
That's it.
Is that your tweeting thing?
Bob Rice 3, that's me.
Bob Rice 3. And joining us from our DC bureau is David Mercer, the former Deputy National Finance Director for the Democratic National Committee. David, let me come to you first. Come on, smile. Sure. You're loving this, aren't you? You're just loving it.
Well, listen, it speaks to momentum, the big mo, especially for Santorum. I think he surprised a lot of us with a rack-up of 3 victories. But it also speaks to the weaknesses of the other 2 candidates that have switched out leads, that being Romney and Gingrich, that he may be emerging as the anybody but Mitt choice rather than Gingrich. And it also points out with Romney that, money doesn't buy you love, and that the caucus states and retail politics that summoned attention from Santorum actually worked. So, this is a battle that's going to go into Super Tuesday and come out of that into the convention. It doesn't look like this is going to end anytime soon.
So, Bob, Santorum's up. Gingrich seems to have, faded completely now. Romney says he'll still be the nominee. We'll listen to him in a moment say that. Does this, though, change anything in the long run, or is this just another of these bursts we've seen for anybody but Romney?
Well, most likely it doesn't change anything in the long run, but I do think that this is one of those points where history might twist a little bit. What's going to happen now is that people are going to sit back and go, wait a minute, Santorum, I'm going to take another look. I really believe that this is remember, he got cheated out of this in Iowa. He won, but nobody knew it.
So he didn't get the momentum. They eventually gave him the victory. He didn't get the momentum.
He didn't get that there, and now people are going to say, wait a minute, I really believe they're going to sit back and take another look at this guy. And there's so that's the good news for him. The bad news for Romney is all over the board. He's not polling nearly as well now as he did 4 years ago. In any of these states.
Right. Yeah. In particular.
Go on, David.
I was going to say, Bob is absolutely right. If you look at Colorado, nearly half of those, well, he lost half of his vote from 2008. He lost a third in Missouri and a third in Minnesota. So it's almost as if the more they get to see him and know him, the less likely they are to vote for him as it's appearing in the numbers.
Yeah, I think that is a really scary trend. His unfavorables are going way up at the same time, because what he's doing, and what he will do to Santorum now, is what he's done to the other candidates who have shown up as blips on the radar screen, is he's going to unloose that flamethrower that he's got, that very expensive, high-caliber flamethrower, and bombard these folks with negative ads, which is effective. He does it for a reason. It's effective, but at the same time, it's pulling him down too.
All right, let's listen to Mitt Romney's reaction to last night's results. Here he is.
I want to congratulate Senator Santorum, wish him the very best. We'll keep on campaigning down the road, but I expect to become our nominee with your help. So I want to congratulate all of my fellow Republicans, particularly Senator Santorum, and I look forward to the contest to come. But we're going to take our message of liberty and prosperity to every corner of the country. And when this primary season is over, we're going to stand united as a party behind our nominee to defeat Barack Obama and to restore the values that have made America the greatest nation in the history of the earth.
So Mitt Romney, at least publicly, still professing confidence. David, one of our viewers is writing in here, Jeff Philippi, asking, did the fact that Romney didn't run a barrage of negative ads against Santorum help Santorum win? And it's true, we have seen that when anybody has turned negative and really attacked their opponent, it has worked, and Romney didn't do that this time round, did he?
Well, I think, you know, if you look at Florida and how he carpet bombed Newt Gingrich there in a primary state, which calls for, in primaries, media almost trumps retail politics. We also know that Santorum left the state early, not only to tend to his daughter, who we hope is having a recovery, and our prayers are with him. But secondly, caucus states, it's more hand-to-hand combat, if you will, or engagement with the voters. And he spent that time in those states that Romney did not. And with a diminished capacity of money in caucus states, it became more of an equal playing field and eventually going to Santorum's favor in it being a retail politics state, being that there are caucuses.
Now, so by that reasoning, Bob, when we get to Super Tuesday and there's so many states and you've got to do it, you can't do it as retail politics, shaking every hand. Romney's in a very strong position once again.
He is in a strong position, but I don't think you can underestimate. I don't think you can underestimate the impact of what just happened. I mean, he just proved for sure that the Nevada tourism slogan is right. What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas.
That's a very good line. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll use it.
And I think that there's one other thing that people are not paying nearly enough attention to these days, because we always look at the present through the lens of the past. And in the past, politics was different for a simple reason. There was no social media. Now it's possible for groups of like-minded people to band together in a very cheap way, organize themselves, and accomplish things which weren't possible. Now you could be talking about the Egyptian Spring, or you could be talking about grassroots politics here in the United States. And so I don't think that a giant pile of money. It's a big advantage, but I don't think it's the definitive advantage, frankly, than it has been in previous election cycles.
Yeah, David?
Jonathan, I would add, with regard to Super Tuesday, and you're right, there are a lot of states on the calendar, and you have to cover a lot of geography. But if we look at South Carolina and the Gingrich victory there and the margin of it, of a southern state, we got a glimpse of what we might see at Super Tuesday, where you have a lot of southern states coming on the board. And that is going to complicate matters for Romney and Santorum. It might raise, again, the possibility of Gingrich reemerging. But Romney's in a difficult position here, where he could have added to his state tally on wins. He just gave up 3. In fact, Santorum is now 4-7, and Romney is 3-7. And then going into Super Tuesday, you not only have Santorum with the win record he has, but Gingrich opening up the South to maybe have a repeat of South Carolina in some instances.
Bob, do you think there's a chance that this does go all the way to the convention?
Yeah, I think there's a very good chance. This is looking like the kind of race, it doesn't happen very often, once every 20 years maybe in this country, where it really does go all the way. A few weeks ago we talked about the possibility, could there be a brokered convention? Everyone went, no, couldn't possibly be. But you know what?
It's creeping up the possibility charts.
Right. I think, you've probably gone from a 2% chance to a 9% chance or something. I mean, it's still a remote possibility, but the reality is the Republicans are looking at a situation in which their rank and file simply isn't swallowing the choice of the party elite. And if you look at Romney's advantages here, it's not just money. Every single major politician, every single pundit, every single one is behind him. But what is happening? He's lost more states than he's won, and Rick Santorum is beating him in terms of number of states. Something is wrong.
Right. And a couple of our viewers here picking up on your guys' comments about this being different. Sarah West says she didn't see one political ad, and she lives in Denver. And another of our viewers, Political Watch, says, money makes a difference, but this is a very different kind of election year. You Democrats getting more and more confident as this goes on, David?
Look, you don't want to get overconfident, and to be sure. And this is something that the Republican Party has to go through. It seems to be an identity crisis. It will be a clearer choice if they don't resolve that identity crisis, coming into a nominee that has a profile that will appeal to the general electorate, being independents included. And we got to watch that. But at the same time, as you know, the president, following his State of the Union, opinion, went to swing states to not only talk about the positions and the record that he is putting forth to the American people while the campaign for the Republican nomination is going on, and tending to the American people's business, whether it be for the payroll tax cut, which is still in abeyance right now in Congress, which would put more money in middle-class Americans' pockets, 160 million, I might add, of them, to continue the demand to see the unemployment rate go down, so that he is in the best position come his convention in August to launch a general election campaign.
Well, there do seem to be some encouraging signs across the economy.
Yes.
Is it enough for President Obama, do you think, if people are seeing the economy slowly improving, or is it all going to be too little too late?
No, it's not going to be too little too late. I mean, we know from history that if the trend is in the right direction, it hugely favors the incumbent president, even if the overall numbers are bad. You know, you can look at Ronald Reagan. There's a long, long history of that being the case. And as you know, I've said many times on this show, and I've been saying for many months, that my firm was expecting a slow and significant improvement in the economy. We're seeing that. You're starting to see the housing crisis resolve. Not that it's going to rocket forward, but the fact is that we have lost comparatively so much housing stock compared to the population growth. We haven't been building new houses in the last few years. So that fact alone is going to drive some recovery in the housing sector, and that will drive jobs up. So I believe the trends are going to favor Obama there. But listen, a lot of things can change the dynamic of this race in a heartbeat. Iran can change the dynamics of this race in a heartbeat. A catastrophic Greek default, an unruly Greek default that ripples through the EU and puts us back into a recession. Same thing. So, you know, it's when you're looking in the future, it's always hard to predict what sort of thing will pop up. We don't know what sort of thing, but it's highly likely that curveballs will occur between now and November that will shake up the dynamics of this race.
David?
I would add Bob is absolutely right, and there are some headwinds or curveballs that could come, but I think given the way this president has addressed and reset the course that we were on almost to a depression, it will prove positive and validate his last 3 years when and if those surprises come up or curveballs, and showing that he can hit those curveballs and keep us on a steady track. So it could also play to his advantage in those sorts of instances arising for him to deal with on behalf of the American people.
And obviously one of those curveballs could easily, as you were saying, Bob, come from the Middle East. You know, we've got 19 Americans sitting in Egypt now, apparently going on trial, having worked for NGOs there. Those kind of things are completely uncontrollable, at least in the beginning stages, by a president. If they get put away, suddenly you've got something not unlike the Iranian hostage crisis.
Oh, absolutely. And the 19 people on trial that were going to go on trial are going to go on trial in Egypt. Absolutely another perfect example. And there are 50 of those examples that we can't name yet because they haven't started to occur. So there's going to be a lot of changes, and there are a lot of challenges that Obama's going to have to meet. And, you know, the reality is, and when you're faced with situations like that, it's great to be the person who's not in the White House, because the person in the White House knows things that other people don't know. They have to make calculations that they can't explain. They have to play their hand in a certain way, and it's really easy to Monday morning quarterback and say, well, he should never have let that occur. He should have done this. He should have done that. And it can sound very persuasive to the outside world.
David, last word from you.
Yes, on the flip side of that as well, you could be knocked off the front pages and back to page 8 with the president and the bully pulpit of the presidency and its office that command an attention to the eclipse of the opposition or other candidates in that race as well. So it's a touchy and dicey situation and has to be managed very well.
All right, David Mercer, former Deputy National Finance Director of the Democratic National Committee. Thanks very much for being with us today.
Pleasure to be with both of you.
All right.
Thank you.
Bob Rice, you're going to stick around to talk about all manner of other things.
Thank you.
And look who's sitting next to you now on
Especially
camera 3.
Yes.
K.T. McFarlane.
How could I leave